Stop trading hours for dollars. The wealthy figured this out generations ago. There's a compensation framework they teach their kids that turns time into money that works while you sleep. Let me show you something that changed how I see money, forever. When you work an hourly job, there's a silent transaction happening that nobody explains. Your employer pays you $40 an hour, but generates maybe $200 of value from that same hour. That $160 difference? That's equity extraction. And it compounds against you every single day. The wealthy understood this math centuries ago. They realized that being on the receiving end of that equation, even once, changes everything. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The system isn't broken. It was designed this way. And the people who designed it made sure their children would never, ever work for hourly wages. What they taught instead is a completely different framework for thinking about compensation. One that most people never hear about until it's too late. Think about this for a second. Every billionaire, every generationally wealthy family, every person who achieved true financial freedom has one thing in common. They stopped trading hours. Period. Warren Buffett doesn't bill by the hour. Elon Musk doesn't clock in. The Walton family heirs don't punch a time card. But here's what they don't tell you. It's not about working less. It's about working differently. The first type of equity capture is what I call labor leverage. Instead of selling your hours, you sell systems. You build something once that generates value repeatedly. A course, a product, a process. The hour you spent creating it keeps paying you. But here's what makes this powerful. That same hour can pay you 100 times, 1,000 times, infinitely. The math completely inverts. If this is shifting how you see things, drop a like because we're just getting started. The second type is ownership equity, and this is where it gets interesting. But here's what they don't tell you about ownership equity. Most people think owning stocks in their retirement account makes them owners. It doesn't. Not really. You're holding paper while someone else makes decisions. True ownership equity means having control. When you own a business, even a small one, you control the equity extraction. You decide where that surplus value goes. You're on the receiving end of other people's hours. The data shows something surprising. Small business owners who work the same hours as employees typically build 10 to 50 times more net worth over a 30-year career. Same hours. Radically different outcome. The difference is position. Are you the one extracting equity, or having it extracted from you? And this leads to the third type of equity capture. The one that wealthy families guard most carefully. It's called compounding ownership, and it's the reason generational wealth exists. But before I explain it, you need to understand why your employer specifically needs you to think hourly. Here's the real opportunity most people miss. Corporations spend billions annually on something called workforce psychology. They know that hourly thinking creates a specific mental cage. When you think in hours, you think in limits. There are only so many hours in a day. There's only so much you can earn. Your ceiling becomes visible, and you accept it. But the real opportunity is this. That same psychology that traps most people can be your escape route once you understand it. When wealthy people look at a business opportunity, they never ask how much per hour. They ask what's the equity position. What do I own when this is over? What compounds? A wealthy mentor once told me something that rewired my brain. He said, never work for money that stops when you do. Think about that. If your income requires your presence, your hours, your direct labor, you don't have an asset. You have a job wearing a costume. The math doesn't lie. An hour spent building equity is worth 100 hours spent billing hourly. But most people never make the switch because they're addicted to the certainty of the next paycheck. But everything I just told you? That's just the setup. Here's where it gets truly game-changing. There's a specific inflection point in wealth building where time becomes almost worthless compared to ownership. It's called the equity crossover point. And hitting it is like stepping from arithmetic into calculus. Before this point, more hours means more money. Simple, linear, capped. After this point, your assets generate more than your labor ever could. Your time becomes optional. The wealthy don't just know about this point. They engineer their entire careers to reach it as fast as possible. And this is how you profit from it. You need to calculate your personal crossover number. Take your monthly expenses, multiply by 300, and that's roughly the asset base needed to generate enough passive income to replace your labor entirely. For someone spending $5,000 a month, that's $1.5 million in productive assets. Sounds like a lot until you realize that every hour spent building equity compounds toward that number, while every hour traded for wages just pays this month's bills. Subscribe if you want to see exactly how to accelerate toward your crossover point. The third type of equity capture makes this dramatically faster. Now this is where most people go wrong. They hear about equity, and they think it means stock options, or startup lottery tickets. That's gambling, not strategy. Compounding ownership is different. It means owning assets that buy more assets. The math doesn't lie. When your rental property income buys another rental property, that's compounding ownership. When your business profits fund another business, that's compounding ownership. When your dividend payments reinvest into more dividend stocks, that's compounding ownership. The wealthy don't just accumulate assets. They build asset machines that create more assets. And here's the part that should make you angry. They often do this using other people's hours. Your hours. Every time you clock in, you're potentially fueling someone else's compounding ownership machine. Let me put this in perspective. A single rental property earning $500 monthly passive income might seem small. But if you use that to acquire another property every 3 years, in 15 years you have 5 properties generating $2,500 monthly. In 30 years, potentially 15 properties, and $7,500 monthly. Same initial effort. Compounding position. What the wealthy do instead is they start with micro equity positions. They don't wait until they can buy a building. They start with something small that compounds. It could be digital products that sell while you sleep. It could be content that generates ad revenue perpetually. It could be affiliate relationships that pay for referrals you made years ago. Plot twist. The internet democratized equity capture in ways previous generations couldn't imagine. You can build a compounding ownership machine with a laptop and an idea. No inherited wealth required.